timer and we're rolling. There we go. Got to like settle into my space, dude. I spend all morning conversating with people too. It's probably my favorite thing to do, I've realized in life, and I can do it endlessly. But I like to have the true discovery. So I was just talking, for those out there, we were having a conversation before we went live, and I was like, you just need to stop talking, because those initial conversations, that's where like the true gold is, like as you're getting to know this person, because these two have never met. We haven't hung out a ton.
No, mostly at jiu-jitsu, right? And that was
So that initial conversation is like, that's the real essence of it. So anyway, now you can talk.
We're good now.
Yeah, we're good now.
We're allowed to speak.
We're allowed to speak. So today we have Nick Kraft, owner of Craft Tree Care, and maybe other things that we'll discover today that I haven't even heard about yet. So I'm excited to have this conversation. Eric Boardman's with me today. Thank you for joining us, brother. I know you have a busy schedule. Eric's so motivational, and you've got a great voice. Like, I feel like I need to lower my voice a few octaves when I'm with you. Yeah.
Like Chris Pratt and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I just had coffee with the owner of Heat Praxia, Sam. And that's a business downtown. They do cold plunging and saunas. Okay, he's going to come on the podcast. And I'm talking to this dude, and he starts talking about bow hunting. He's like a big time bow hunter. And his voice is exactly like Cameron Haynes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm thinking this the whole time. And then he said something about Cam Haynes. He's like, you ever heard of him? I'm like, dude, like, your voice is exactly like his. It was tripping me out, man. Felt like
every well-rounded guy knows who Cam Haynes is.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe that. There's a few of those figures I think that really stand out that most men that are similar to us, I'll say, know at least a good bit about, because they're just well-rounded individuals and they specialize in some way. That's what made them famous. Yeah. But they're well-rounded enough that we all look at them and we go, damn, that's a good dude.
Yep.
I want to emulate that to some extent. I'll never run like Cam Haynes. No, thank you.
No,
I have no interest.
No desire.
But the way he hunts, the passion he has, hunting is a large part of my life. And
yep.
I emulate that to an extent. And I appreciate listening to the way he speaks very eloquently about the feeling, the dedication, and why it's more than just the hunt. It's good for the man. That speaks to me. I appreciate that.
Do you think that taps into like some hereditary or genetics
100%
in us, right?
100%. Lack of purpose in life and lack of that fulfilling feeling, I think, is a lot of what the young men nowadays are struggling with. They're like, what do I do? This sucks. I immediately turn on my phone, get my dopamine fix of scrolling, and in 5 minutes, my brain is fried and I just want some junk food. There's no real deep fulfillment in that. Like I told you before we started the podcast, my morning this morning, starting at 4 a.m., loading up duck gear in 25-degree weather, paddling out on a frozen lake, breaking ice to go out duck hunting with my older brother, which is a dream come true that we're at this point in life, to go suffer for hours, literally shaking cold. I know we're borderline hypothermia, trying to stay as dry as we can, putting out duck decoys, sitting there very still, miserable as could be in that physical sense, with that camaraderie and like laughing at what a terrible situation we voluntarily put ourselves in, like literally risking our lives. If we capsize, we're going to probably drown because it's just so cold and you're not swimming back to shore. That made us feel really good to have that challenge. It's that daily ability to challenge myself in some way, whether it's the gym in the morning, jiu-jitsu with you. Seth used to regularly choke me out, just so you guys know.
Way bigger than me.
It's size. We both know size does not matter. I was a, quote, black belt martial arts instructor in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
That does not translate very well into jiu-jitsu. I'll be the first one to tell people there's a difference between practicing killing people very well and defending yourself very well and the art of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is an art.
Yeah.
Very challenging. Just like hunting, that challenge, going in there knowing, man, this is gonna be miserable. I'm gonna get choked out, whether it's getting choked out in jiu-jitsu, sweating your ass off, or freezing hunting ducks in 25-degree weather this morning. Those are the things that make me feel the most alive.
Is that the draw to hunting? So, I mean, it's not necessarily, obviously the meat is amazing. That's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's the experience.
It's the challenge. The experiences are amazing. Having those stories that make me smile and laugh, looking back on them. If I'm not being challenged, I know I'm not as, I don't want to say good of a person. I don't feel the same level of happiness and motivation in life in general. I'm not at my best self when I'm not being challenged in certain ways, especially physically. The physical is huge for me. Intellectually, of course, I like to challenge myself. I like being surrounded by intelligent individuals like you guys.
So, I was going to say, you're in the wrong room right now, brother.
Don't be humble.
Standards. I appreciate that.
I know. I appreciate, knowing I'm not always the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
That really goes along. I want to surround myself with people that try and elevate me in certain ways.
If you're hunting, is the experience the same if you're by yourself, or is it that the shared misery?
People are very different. I can answer for myself and my brother to an extent. For me, I pretty much do not hunt alone almost ever. I can't stand it. It's very different. The physical, I can get the same physical challenge per se, hurting and suffering mentally in the gym alone. When I go out in the woods, I want to have somebody there with me to watch them enjoy that experience as well. The gym's more personal. The hunting aspect is, especially with my father and brothers, my wife hunts a good bit as well. Nice. Yeah. Very happy. Last buck she shot, she was pregnant with our daughter.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
pregnant,
cool.
Shot her buck. I helped her carry it out. Very cool. Hunting alone and pregnant. She actually called me and said, "Hey, I just shot a buck." And I said, "Don't carry it out. You're pregnant. I will come to you and pack it out." And that's what happened. It was great. So for me, it's a group thing. I like watching other people enjoy that outdoor healthy challenge. It brings me a lot of joy to watch people enjoy that healthy outdoor activity as much as I do.
Yeah.
It's not a solo thing. My older brother could go sit for 6 hours alone on a ridge top, glassing for deer, not say a word, not have a person around, and be the happiest man on earth. He finds that peace there when he's alone. My peace usually comes when I'm surrounded by people I enjoy doing good things that make me feel like I'm going the right direction in life.
Yeah.
That brings me a sense of peace more than yoga ever could.
Yep. Do you think some of that comes from being in the Marine Corps, or is that like a childhood? Like that's just how you are?
Probably a bit of both. I'm one of 7 kids, so never really been alone.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Spent a lot of my teenage years raising my younger sisters because they were all born much later in life than I was. So I was a teenager when there was a bunch of infants around. So taking care of other people and being surrounded by family and friends my entire life has been transitioning from that to the Marine Corps, always having whether it was my peers, my junior Marines on deployments, you're never alone. That, and then now starting my own company, always having employees, never been the alone guy for most anything in my life, because you don't climb alone. For those that don't know, I own Craft Tree Care. It's primarily a tree climbing company, tree removal company, climbing 110, 120 foot trees, doing complicated work up there. You're never alone. It's too much risk.
Right.
Even if in theory that one tree could be done alone, you just make a mess and they'll clean it up after. The one cut on yourself and you could bleed out up there. You can't rappel down. God knows what. You can't be alone.
You, full disclosure, you don't look like the climbing type. You look more like the tearing the tree down type.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Do you get up there as well?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say my lead climber is now Michael. He's a great kid. Started him from the ground up and he's climbing like an animal. He's such a good, motivated.
I feel like it takes a certain type of individual. So my dad he was an arborist, worked at a college his whole life, and he would climb trees on our property when I was growing up and cut them. And man, you know, he's up there high.
So you understand?
I understand. Like he had all the gear. I've been up a few, and people don't understand how much movement is going on up there. And mine weren't as tall as that. You know, I'm talking like 50 feet, and there's still quite a bit.
Even that, once your feet are off the ground, that inherent instinctual fear. It's like when you're in the woods and there's that fear. We live up where this is grizzly and wolf country. We'll just specifically talk about grizzly bears because they regularly eat people. There's a danger, but you mitigate it as much as you can. You accept it. It's as part of a risk with what you're going to do. That's what I tell people. This tree could kill me. I understand that and I respect that, but I love what I do every day. I get to go, and I don't climb every day anymore. I'll say that. Like I said, Michael's really replacing me as a lead climber. Really proud of him. My older brother climbs. I have another guy who climbs. Even my foreman can climb, and he's like 300 pounds. He's a freaking grizzly bear.
Wow.
Even he can climb. He can do aerial rescue if need be, and he can take down trees, but it's not his forte. He has a job to do on the ground. Point being, everyone in my company can climb, and it's definitely something that either you're for or you're not. It's like me talking about chasing these ducks in ice water. Either you're like, man, that's crazy and terrible. I'd love that challenge, or you have no interest in it. You're like, why would you possibly do that? Why would you, like, somebody could understandably say, why would you endanger yourself? I have 2 young daughters. Why would you endanger yourself? Why would you choose 8 years in the Marine Corps, multiple deployments, and then I start climbing trees for a living? Like, what am I trying to do to my family? I would understand that argument. It's not very fair for me to risk my life so much, but I know I'm best when I have that ability to challenge myself in those ways. I come home and hug my daughters, kiss my wife, be more disciplined, be a happier man in general, because I'm able to do those things.
Right.
If I had an office job, I would be an unhappy individual every day.
Yeah.
I'll take quality over quantity every single day in all aspects of life.
I think there's another part of that.
No, get in there, dude.
It's you're talking about basically challenging yourself every day to do hard things. And you brought that up with kids too. And it sounds like you have a new employee that embraces.
Get right up in there.
There it is. Right.
That's the voice I want to hear.
No, but I think some of that's lost with a lot of kids now, right? Or a lot of young men that are growing up. You talk about like-minded individuals. What I think some folks don't realize is doing hard stuff and challenging yourself and experiencing adversity.
Yes.
And that's a habit,
Yes.
right? So the fact that you have daughters at home and you have a family at home, sometimes we don't get to pick the moment we experience adversity, whether that's physically, mentally, or you're truly just running into another challenge or something happens upon you. We exist in that world. So to me, I like challenging myself physically and mentally so that I can better prepare for that moment. Your mind is pretty awesome. It can start to rationalize and break down, and you can perform in moments of like high stress and, those adverse scenarios. So I think some of us coming out, I was a submariner for about 9 years in the Navy. I'm still reservist now.
Nice. But
But similarly, like you push yourself and you get used to pushing yourself and testing your limits physically and mentally. And when you get out, so a job like that for you, it's almost a matter of habit. You're used to performing under stress.
I think it makes you, to your point, if you're regularly challenging yourself and you can perform under pressure, it gives you a confidence in life that we all know certain guys will never have. That guy who puffs his chest out, wants to get in pick a fight at the bar with some little guy or something. And there's dudes like us who do jujitsu. We are in shape. We've trained to actually kill somebody if we have to in defense of ourselves or others. And we know we can and we will if need be. That gives us a confidence in life that they'll never have because they've never been tested. A knight in shining armor has been through no battles. I love that saying.
Yeah, that's good.
I probably messed it up in some way, but that's the core of the saying. And I love it. So true. That guy who wants to be the knight in shining armor, looks all pretty and this and that. And there's nothing wrong with getting cleaned up. There's nothing wrong with a white collar job. I'll make sure I say that. But to an extent, you have to challenge yourself and beat yourself up physically, emotionally, mentally, struggles, choose that adversity when you have the chance to choose easy or hard. You always have to challenge yourself. And although there's times to tone that back, none of us want to be that guy who's always a one-upper, always doing one more, making yourself more miserable, choosing all the hardest things. I have no interest in that. But I know I found my level of how much I want to commit to that adversity every day, and know I've tested myself in those ways where I can be a happy, nice guy. I had a customer a while ago who was like, wow, you're so nice and normal. And we got to know each other over a few different times I worked with him. And he asked a few very pointed questions about my prior time in the military, my life now, how I am in general, martial arts, firearms, you name it. And he'd asked a few pointed questions that I answered very directly and honestly. And he's like, wow, you are very prepared, thoughtful, looking around for threats, the way you conduct yourself, the way you've trained, and he's like, but you also balance that out by you come across as so genuine, happy, and nice. I said, well, yeah, that's why I can be so genuinely happy and nice. Because like General Mattis said, I have a plan to kill everybody. Yeah. Simple as that.
Good old General Mattis.
I agree.
It's the baddest dudes in the room are always the chillest dudes ever, always.
Exactly.
I was in the mixed martial arts world in my early 20s, and it was like I trained with some savages, and they're the nicest dudes.
Yes.
Like, because there's nothing to prove. That's it, right? You test yourself, you push your limits constantly, and you're not running around like a little bantam rooster puffing your chest out and picking fights with everybody.
They don't rely on emotion.
Yeah.
It's wild. What you guys are talking about is like training your mind and your body. And that's the challenging part. I know the last podcast, I talk a lot about coaching and developing young adults, kids and all of that. So how do you get them to buy into that? There's a Marine Corps saying called embrace the suck.
Exactly.
Sometimes your reward is just the work that you put in and then your knowledge that you can handle yourself in a tough situation.
Yes.
So in a world now where it's the generation of instant gratification where all of their affirmation comes from likes or clicks or, somebody doing something on social media or a picture or video, whatever that is. It's a different world. I was explaining.
So superficial.
Yeah. And I was trying to explain to my son, I said, man, this is your journey, not mine. Yours is a lot different than mine. When I grew up, my sphere of influence was like 12 people. It was my family and my friends that lived close to me. That was my influence. Now you've got 60,000 and all them online are telling you to go be popular.
It's a different world.
Yes.
I do sympathize that these kids are growing up in a different world than we did. We are the last generation that grew up with no cell phones at all till we were at least late teenagers.
Right.
That's when they came around, when we'd already established our friend groups, our habits for the most part. That was just in time. I think these kids have a completely different situation. We have to respect that respect it, of course, to an extent, cut them some slack, but then also help them overcome their own challenges in that realm. Cause that is different. It's something we've never been through.
Yeah.
I don't try and take that completely away from them. The world's different. It's like, us looking at people in the 60s who have a one income household and they're buying everything they want, living the good life. And it's like, wow, one dude worked at a factory and paid for a family and vacation, all this. We could never pay for all that.
No,
we have a completely different situation than they did. And they need to respect that we're in a different situation than what they grew up in. We have to look at these young kids. Oh, they're in a different situation than us. I think we just have to hold them to the same standard while helping them get there in a different way.
Yeah. We've limited our kids' screen time over the years. But now we've loosened up a little bit because my son does a lot of work on the computer, he's trying to build businesses. He wants to be an entrepreneur. So it's like, you got to give him some leeway in that and let him run with it to see what he can do. It is a tool. It's hard though. And it's hard to teach kids how to embrace that adversity. I think probably the way we all grew up, I had my dad as an example, and we did hard things all the time, like hiking and backpacking and just shit situations. And that gave me that respect. I think it was a lead by example thing. So I imagine all of our kids will be fine with that because I think we all embrace that and live that way. But there are plenty of people out there that don't. And I don't know how those kids will learn that skill.
Well,
some of them won't.
No, and
it's the reality of it.
And a lot of parents don't know what it is that they're truly into, right? Like from our generation, you said it, cell phones for us came later and, they were so simple and texting didn't come out until 5 or 6 years after that. I say this all the time when I go talk about like modern trends and drug trends and stuff with parents, but the age of ignorance is over. We can no longer as parents afford to be ignorant anymore. You have
no excuse.
You have to know the applications that are after. You have to know the messaging they're getting from TikTok or YouTube or anything like that, because you have to be able to at least understand the messages that they're consuming. Because again, their sphere of influence is now all over the world and they don't care about what's good for them. Truly, they don't. For them, it's just more about clickbait and likes, and because they make money off
these companies have refined it to a science. We all know that. They have mastered the art of your subconscious telling you to get those likes. When you habitually pull out your phone and pull up Instagram and don't realize you did it because you have nothing else to do. 100 other productive things you could have done, but habitually you pulled that out and opened it to get that boredom fix real quick, to get that dopamine out of habit. That's when we know they've mastered that art. And because they are making money, it's our job to protect the kids from it.
Right.
It's hard to be a good parent. It's hard to be in shape, to have a good job, to balance your life in all aspects. And with these kids, it's hard to stay on top of the ever evolving situations they're going through.
Yeah.
That takes real effort. And I'm not afraid to tell people, we get compliments all the time. I'm very grateful for them all the time about our kids, ourselves, our lifestyle, our lives, our business. I tell people, I'm tired all the time. That's why.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's work. Everything I do, I put myself into. Truly, I try hard. I'm up every morning at 4 going to the gym. I'm not afraid to do the research online to find out about whether it's nationwide political situations or local elections or local incidents, talking to people I know like you guys with this opportunity right now. I'm willing to put myself through all these things to well round out my life and my knowledge of what I'm doing, where I'm at, where the world's at, where my kids are at, what's coming up next. So I can plan for that. It's very nearsighted to just, I'm going to go to work today and I'm just not going to, look into any new education, any learning experience, any challenges. I'm just going to take today to have no foresight at all. I'm just 100% going to live for today.
You shut their brain off like a sheep, right? And just go through the motions.
Living in the white. It's that color code.
I have been there. I mean, I have had times in my life, like when I was in law enforcement, and there's no reason to, there's no benefit. I could work as hard as I want, and the slug over there is doing nothing. And it's like, we get paid the same. It's like
demoralizing.
It's demoralizing.
Marginalizing the contributions of those that are going above.
Yes.
And that's a cultural issue.
It is. So
I'm a firm believer in incentive-based programs on the job and off the job. You do more in life, you should get more. That's why I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
There's an ethical boundary to everything, even capitalism. There can be too much greed for sure. But I do believe in a well-rounded sense that the more you do, the more you should get in return. That's just simple. We understand that. You earn it. You put in that effort. It's going to take a lot of time and effort to build my company. But in the long run, it'll give me a very good life. It's going to take a lot of time and effort to raise my kids the way I want, the well-rounded sense, the hikes I'm going to take them on. Like you said, taking kids hiking, hunting. My wife homeschools them. The number of hours, my oldest daughter's 2.5. My wife's been homeschooling for a year now. Legitimate. And it's kind of at her pace because she's so young, but she's very involved and she enjoys it. Since she was 1.5 years old, started talking to her about ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, color, shapes, you name it, flashcard. I remember when she was 1.5 years old making, I think we started with 300 flashcards we made by hand. Sat down with my wife and made them. And I was like, I remember asking my wife, she's so young. Is this kind of necessary right now? And my wife was, it's not too early. Trust me. It's not too early.
I'm still caught up on, you get a bunch of compliments about your kids, man. Good on you.
Thank you.
Vice principal knows me by first name. Calls me from middle school, and I was like, what did what Trent do today?
That's a boy. That's a boy.
Exactly. I have 2 daughters. They're right now. They're still a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month-old.
Yeah,
very young, sweet phase. And of course, your kids always behave so much better for everyone else.
Yes.
For you.
That's what I hear.
Exactly.
I know. Well, my youngest is 3, so I appreciate that. However, she got kicked out of preschool in 5 hours. Oh yeah, got kicked out. I've never even heard of it.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, 100% kicked
bite
out.
Somebody or what?
No, just screaming up and down the halls, disturbing all the other classes, and they called us and they said, hey, we need to talk about the program, see how we can get this to fit. Their idea of talking was, here's your check back. This is the program for her. Like, this isn't very Christian of you.
No.
Oh yeah, so now she's in an alternative preschool. So
she's in the bad kid preschool.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a thing?
Good all luck. The 3-year-olds on probation with face tats and nose rings. She's loving life. She's getting along great.
Oh,
she loves all those. My 3-year-old's intense.
She's gonna be hard in the yard someday, man.
And my middle one's like perfect. She's totally princess. She's awesome. And my 13-year-old's he's a pain in the butt. But
you know what? He was well behaved when I saw him. So what's up?
Yeah, he's
other people.
Yeah,
that's it, man.
I remind my wife, I was like, some of the things we really love about him are the same things that drive us crazy. Because he's
of course
obstinate and stubborn and he's a scrapper and all that stuff. But again, those are the things that tend to round out into something decent if you get it under control.
Gotta love people for their flaws.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you gotta.
Sometimes again, the difference between a flaw and a strength is the direction.
Absolutely.
And whether or not you've disciplined that to push it into the right direction. Yeah. It's just, when you bring that up and you're talking about how do we get back to that culture? How do we shape our young people that we have influence on to push, to keep doing hard shit, right? And then get that reward. It's tough in today's society, but it's all the more important.
Yeah.
And that's
makes it more important.
Yes.
The more rare it is, the more important it is.
Exactly.
That's just how value works.
And it's unique now. And it's so hard for them. I try to put myself in their shoes. Who do they always talk about? Is like social media influencers.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, then they're
the
all
most
getting
unrealistic situations.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, man, I'm telling you, at the crux of everything that you want to accomplish, man, it's still hard work. It's still hard work, which will get you there.
Yes.
But it's hard to listen to dad all the time.
Dad doesn't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dad doesn't know
anything.
Yeah,
Oh
tough.
man.
I have this like growing fear that our parents' generation will be the last ones who actually get to retire and like, you know, buy the house with the shop and the tractor and live that life. I feel like maybe this is just me, but I have this growing feeling that we will never have that option to, like, it won't be the same. Like, we're either going to have to work for longer or shit's going to fall apart. And then we're putting our boots back on and grabbing the rifles.
100%. It's going to be one of those two.
Yeah.
I mean, the data's there. You can easily pull it up, and many other people have probably explained this much better than I'm about to, but the amount of money you have to make now to achieve the same goals as your grandparents did, and then your parents did, and now we're doing, what our kids will have to do is even worse than what we've had to do to achieve that same life at that same phase, to buy the house, have the shop, all that. The amount of money they're going to have to make in a short period of time, inflation, you know, risk of economic situations going nuts. It's just getting worse. And I hate to sound like a pessimist. I try and be an optimist, but the realistic situation is this country's been on a downhill slide for 70 years now, since the 50s, really. Been going downhill consistently in almost every measurable way. The inflation, number of issues, we can all probably agree socially a lot since the 50s-ish. There's been big improvements in a lot of areas, but generally speaking, our kids are going to have such an uphill battle. And that's why I take it so seriously, trying to prepare them, especially having two little princesses. Like my kids are very docile, generally speaking. My wife's a very motivated businesswoman. I can already tell my 2.5-year-old is going to be similar to that in like a business organization, motivation sense to an extent. She's still a little princess, very docile, very quiet. They're not big, strong men who can go out and fight the world in the way that we generally look at it and think of solving our problems with hard work and effort and aggressiveness. It's different. I look at them and I go, man, how can I prepare you for the challenging world you're about to face? You little princess, you're going to have to toughen up and come at the world hard as hell, because it's challenging. It's only getting worse.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, as I don't get too political, but
It's all right.
As things, politics is just so opinionated, and I'm all for, you know, hearing both sides of every story. But as this liberal trans crap and everything gets so much more pushed, and kids get so confused at such a young age, the psychology that we're having to fight in their own head as well as societal. It's like you have to fight your own kid and their brain because the subconscious influence they're getting from the world, and you have to fight the economic situation that we're in as parents, they're going to be in as they get older. It's so, you're fighting on all fronts now. At least back in, you know, previous times or older days, you had more of a family unit where you could go back to that family that were your rock, and then you went out and fought the world, and then you go back to a good family. Like, the family nucleus is generally destroyed in America, unfortunately. I grew up in a broken home. Damn near everybody grows up in a broken home nowadays, and it's terrible. It's tragic. That's so, I think, vital that we've lost that. I mean, they got all the women to go to work, and now both parents always work, and who raises the kids?
It's hard.
I just want to know who makes the decision, right? Like, socially, I think we can all agree that in the last, let's say, even 20 years or 25 years, what our society has decided men should act like, look like, and behave like is completely different than what it once was. You know, what's emphasized now? What you don't want is, you don't want to be overly masculine.
Right.
Toxic masculinity.
Right. And it's just a weird social construct. So what are young men especially supposed to do with all of that energy? We know it's unhealthy when they jump onto social media, because, and that gets into like cyberbullying, some other crazy stuff, but what are they supposed to do with all of that energy?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan of sports stuff, but it
half joking.
No. Trent did that when he was 7 or 8.
I just mean, it's
found football
one of the earliest best starts, sports, especially martial arts, because the aggressiveness.
Yeah.
It's not just baseball. No offense to baseball, but jiu-jitsu is not just baseball. We're just throwing the ball around with your buddies. No, this is a dude trying to strangle you and being physically aggressive with you. And it's you in your own head with your fear, your panic, your effort, and the outside source of somebody kicking your ass. That balances out both sides of yourself and the outside world. You're fighting the outside world and you're fighting your own emotions, learning to discipline your emotions. Savage the body to discipline the mind.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Make savage the body to discipline the mind. I think it's how it's supposed to go.
I said, do hard shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Do hard shit, make yourself uncomfortable.
And getting the young men to do it earlier, telling them like, hey man, you got to do that truly aggressive sport of some kind, whether I'd say wrestling at least, or jujitsu even better, or some kind of MMA. That step in the right direction at a very early age in life, I think will carry them so far into their ability to look at the world, make rational decisions, not get overwhelmed by the emotions and the, Instagram, all that outside influence, because they're going to be able to know themselves better, deal with challenges better, discipline their emotions better. They're the delayed gratification of getting better at something that's long and hard, like jujitsu or something like that. They learn that delayed gratification more at an early age. They learn the habit of going every day when it's hard. So the sooner you start them in life on doing something like that consistently, then they start going to school, then they start getting jobs, and they're like, okay, yeah, my whole life I've been doing hard stuff, seeing these challenges, facing these challenges, and it's just habit. The reason I am the way I am. My dad was a head SWAT commander for a very long time. I grew up with my brother kicking my ass all the time. My older brother was very, very aggressive, kicking my ass regularly. It was just part of my life as a young kid.
Yeah, you probably appreciate it now, though, right?
I do.
Yeah.
We're best friends now.
Yeah.
And he beat the shit out of me every day growing up.
Yeah, you're his boss now.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. And I'm a lot bigger now. But yeah, all that's, I grew playing the sports, doing martial arts, having a father who was very militant, having a brother to challenge me in that man way, doing those hard things in all aspects of life. My whole life has just made me used to it and addicted to it, because I know how good it is. I know how good it feels to overcome every challenge every day. Waking up and going to the gym, waking up 4 a.m. Here we go to the gym again, just like every single day, doing it. But then I come home and I have my wife, my daughters, my business. And it's just like, I check these things off my list and enjoy the hell out of the moments I get with my kids, with my wife. I appreciate them more because they're in between those hard things. So it's like I'm addicted to that challenge because it makes the rest of my life so much more enjoyable when I'm not having that challenge.
Yeah.
When I actually get some time to play with my daughters, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's like having dessert you haven't had very often.
The reward is that much sweeter.
Exactly.
Yes. Like, and you can, like, you don't feel guilty too. Like,
oh yeah.
I eat really clean most of the week but the times I don't, I'm like,
oh yeah,
I don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
I go to town.
You put the work in.
Yeah.
You earned it.
Yes.
And back to, I think, our original point, if we can teach these young kids, young men to earn it, man, you got to earn it every day. People give me compliments about my life. I always tell them I earn it every day.
Yeah.
Rent is due on a good life every single day. It does not matter what you did yesterday, whether it was, your body, your business, your mind, it doesn't matter. It restarts every single morning. You have to earn it every day.
I think too many parents, man, and I think you hit it, because it's not just on the kids. Too many parents quit too early.
Who made this generation?
Right.
Yeah.
But their kids are going through something difficult, and they think that it's their responsibility to pull them out of this hard thing, this challenging thing that they're going through, where it's emotionally or physically difficult. And they're like, I have to go rescue him. Rescue him. Here comes Mama Bear. I'm going to come save him.
No.
Don't. That's the worst thing that you could do for them, because you start to dive in, like, part of the reason I love coaching. Parents are not part of the reason I love coaching. There's great parents out there. But, oh my gosh, that can be really, really challenging, because you're trying to create an environment where they're pushing themselves.
Yes.
Telling their best competition every day is them. Who were you yesterday and how do you get better today? But I got unique insight with my own. He, right after football season, he did wrestling last year, and really it was first year organized wrestling, and he was pretty good. He's a little guy. But he told me this year, he said, Dad, I don't want to wrestle this year. So we kind of let it go. And a couple of days later, he said, are you going to make me wrestle? I said, no, I'm not going to make you wrestle, but I'm going to try to convince you why I think you should. Say wrestling is one of those things you've played organized sports and team sports your whole life.
Oh yeah. Wrestling's so much better.
It's one-on-one, man. It's just you and you. And finally I'm able to get out of him that the reason he doesn't want to do it is because he gets so nervous before every match. His heart's pounding, his blood's pumping. It is just a different kind of nervous than when he plays football.
Yeah.
I said, well, buddy, that's because it's you and you.
Yep.
Right?
No one to rely on.
And don't run from that, man.
Yeah. Embrace it.
Yes.
If you can get him to embrace it.
Yeah. No, man, because every time you step out, you're going to start to get those butterflies to fly in formation, right? Like all of that anxiety, and that you'll start to get them to push towards that goal.
If you can get him to realize that feeling's a good thing, that means you're doing a hard thing.
Yeah,
probably
you care about.
That probably should be like the title of this podcast.
I literally thought about that about 2 minutes
funny,
ago.
Man. We keep saying it.
Yeah, I find adults a lot that have never had that experience. Coaching adult jiu-jitsu, I get a lot of guys that come in, and the hardest step in jiu-jitsu is to get in the door the first time 100%, because it's terrifying. And these guys come in and some of them have never, no military, not, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to minimize their lives, but I mean,
we don't mean that in a derogatory way.
Hard physical way, maybe never played sports. And they're just, to watch the transition, if they stick with it for 6 months, it's like their face looks harder.
Oh, man. Makes me so proud of them.
Oh, dude. I get
so
so pumped. And I have a handful of these guys that have been now over a year, and it's like, you're not the same individual. They legitimately can defend themselves. It turns on some masculine gene inside of them and changes their life.
It's chemical.
Yeah.
Period. And I'll be the first one to apologize. We always harp on the physical stuff so much, but it is important. And because think of all the ripple effects in his life, him coming to jiu-jitsu, overcoming that fear, getting in better shape, learning to defend himself, building the habit and discipline of going every day. That's not just about jiu-jitsu and now you can defend yourself and defend others. It makes you a badass as a man. That's not the point. How many other ripple effects in his life are now positively influenced because of the habits he's built with you? That is why I preach the gym. That is why I preach martial arts. That is why I preach firearms practice, practical living, self-defense, situation awareness, all that kind of stuff. We could go down the rabbit hole. All that stuff is how it carries over in the rest of your life. Yes. It's not the action itself. It's how it affects the rest of your life. And people just don't realize that.
No.
That's why I preach coaching and mentorship. That has to be super rewarding for you.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
And I had no idea going into it like that. I got thrown into this, and I had never envisioned being a coach. It was just, hey, somebody needs to open the door at 6 a.m. and I'm like, I'll do it. And it has grown into me, and like I've grown into that role, and I'm like, wow, like it's insanely rewarding.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely,
insanely.
That mentorship, I swear, it's the same way with coaching. You get that part to me is addictive. Watching the light go off for somebody and watching that start to transition into their development into a better human, not just a better athlete or a better player or a better jiu-jitsu practitioner or anything. You just
all the other things in their life.
You're like, that one thing I said, the 10 things you say, they might catch one.
Oh yeah. You got to wait for that 1%.
Yes. But when you get it and then you see them apply it, or they're teaching it to somebody else, you're like,
that's the best.
Oh,
when you create another mentor, the very best thing. I never realized how much I'd appreciate my employees in the sense of watching them grow. Like I appreciate them. They build this company themselves as much as I do. I love my employees. I appreciate them, but I didn't realize how much I'd appreciate training them, watching them grow. It's like having junior Marines all over again. I joined the Marine Corps thinking, I'm going to go, be the badass in the firefight, not thinking about, my goal wasn't to go become a martial arts instructor. I shot professionally on the Marine Corps shooting team doing traveling competition shooting, which is something else I kind of just fell into and didn't think about, didn't realize would happen. The best part of that was the coaching we did. It wasn't just me going and doing competition, getting to shoot all the fun guns and winning competitions. That wasn't it at all. It was all watching teaching these other people who were new in the gun world. And when I was doing the martial arts instructors course and all that, like teaching these kids who suddenly you see that click where they're like, now they're a whole different Marine. Before they just a kid who joined the Marine Corps, and then they really start embracing it and watching those students truly embrace it. And then they turn to the other student and they start teaching them when the need arises.
Yes.
And that I remember a few instances of that, watching somebody who used to never really interact with his peers. And then he turned, because I was helping another student, turns and starts helping another student, pretty much reiterating verbatim what I'd said, because he remembered it and he was able to explain it to somebody else because I was busy. Watching him take on that role of instructor, I knew, I was like, that's a turning point. Yeah. That kid's now willing to teach his peers, willing to go out of his way to help others come out of his shell and help them, even though it was hard for him. Like you said, the first day in the door, that was his first time really helping somebody else. And I remember talking to him and saying, hey, can you help me, like, assist now and then? I purposely, made an excuse for him to help me because I wanted to foster that, grow that little tiny flame. Because when you're cloning yourself, all of us, generally speaking, if you think you're doing all the right things in life, we're like, damn, more people should do what I'm doing. I'm trying to do all the right things. I hope more people try and emulate me. Whether we admit it or not, I think most of us have those thoughts. I want to clone the good parts of me, I'll say. So when I look at these students, I look at my employees, I'm like, I hope I rub off on them in good ways. I'm conscious of that. I'm going to rub off on them for better or worse. We all rub off on each other. There's no way around it. I want to clone myself in those good ways with these students, employees, you name it. I've always enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah. I think that kind of ties into community and this community in particular. I freaking love it because, one, I have conversations like this all the damn time, and I never had that before. I don't know if it's a phase of my life or if it's like I'm consciously seeking it or if it's literally something very specific to this area up here and all of the like-minded people. I don't like the word like-minded because we're not all the same, but it seems to attract a certain quality in people to come here. And I can't get enough of it. It's freaking awesome.
People are more open here, I think. Yeah. We're more willing to talk like this.
Yeah.
In California, where we're both from.
Yeah.
I'm born and raised in California until I left for the Marine Corps. People aren't they don't want to hear your story. They don't want to hear if you're not famous, they don't care about you as much. You're just a cop. You're just some other dude in the military. You're just whatever. Even if you have good information that you guys could sit down and talk about, swapping, whether it's political beliefs and just hearing each other's side to try and find a common ground or, teach them in general. Everyone's so, generally speaking, more self-centered, more focused and fast-paced, man.
Yeah.
I catch myself. I talk fast still. I think fast. I get ahead of myself. I'm still trying to work some of those bad California habits out of myself of just go. How
about driving? You got that part?
Oh no, man. I tow a trailer almost every day. I've always tried to drive. Cruise control is my best friend because I cannot consciously drive towing that much weight and knowing I'm speeding, like the risk of injury to myself and others.
Yeah.
I mean, we're towing tens of thousands of pounds all the time between
you got like logs and crap.
Equipment. I mean, it's a long bed 3,500 I have in your driveway right now. Then you add the trailer, the skid steer, the logs, you name it. It's, legit, especially with winter conditions right now, legitimately dangerous everywhere I drive. It's not just your average towing. It's serious towing usually. Yeah. So I cruise control, try and be very conscious. And my truck is wrapped with my company logo. If I drive around like an asshole, everybody's going to know,
where to find
who it was. Exactly.
Man,
I'll
tell you, Seth, when I 100% agree. And I lived a lot of different places before we decided to settle here. I think what I've thought about a lot, because I've thought about that and why the interactions here feel so much different than other places I've lived. It's almost like our societies in this community, our community's definition of success is different. I think if you go to other parts of the world, it's almost defined by what you drive or what you wear, how much money you make. I don't see that here, and again, interactions with parents and they do different things. I have a lot of buddies that I work with that are still driving the same early 80s pickup that they've had for a really long time, but they're really involved with their church. They coach baseball on weekends, even though I think it's barely a sport, but they still they're engaged. They're engaged with their community, but they do a lot within that. And they have a great foundation and support good family at home and 3 kids, and they're all working really hard and they're all engaged. I just think our definition of what we determine somebody to be successful. Because at the end of the day, if you look at somebody and say, man, that is a life worth living. I just think it's defined different here. Right.
Agreed.
And because I moved here from West Palm Beach, Miami area. That's where I was stationed last. I was doing recruiting down there. And man, it is, I can't think of what's the word I'm looking for, where everything is just about your image. You know, it's very base and it's very much on the front end. And that's my reserve unit was down in Seal Beach. So I'd go down there quite a bit in the San Diego area, and it seemed that way in California too. And I just think that was the biggest difference for me in talking to people here. It just seems like-minded. I know what you mean. You don't want to say that because I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate everybody's difference, but it just seems to be at its
culture.
Yeah, if you're a good
cultural,
maybe that's it.
It's a cultural difference.
Yeah.
Period. It's hard to put our finger on, but we all know it's a different culture. Like the chances of finding somebody here versus finding somebody in Los Angeles who would look at the guy who's still driving the older pickup and say, okay, is it a good thing or a bad thing? They'd be like, man, he can't. Somebody from Los Angeles would more likely be like, oh, can't afford a new one. Look at that ratty old thing.
Yeah.
Higher chance up here, probably everyone here would be like, man, you tell me you don't have $1,000 truck payment like I do. Like, man, that's damn. Right. Like you're telling me you're able to, save that much money, put that much more time and effort into your family, your life, because you don't have to make that extra money to buy that suit, buy that fancy car, living that super in-debt lifestyle just to have all the fancy things. Like you're working to pay for stuff you don't even get to enjoy. That blew me away in California. And these are people I've known my entire life, specifically. I'm not going to name them, but people I knew my entire life, dudes who make damn good money, who are, $400,000 in debt between the side-by-side, the truck for the wife, the trailer, the quads or whatever, like all that stuff, constant stuff, the pool they had to put in, the this and that. And I'm like, bro, you make like 150 grand a year. How are you so in debt? Oh yeah. Cause you're always buying the next newest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They could be living the life with no debt at all and still have a lot of very nice things with the money they make, specifically who I'm thinking of. But instead they're just the average person in that area in Southern California, where I'm thinking of the average person that they're just like all their neighbors who all have the trailer, the, side by side and this and that. And if they're always getting a new one, a better one, instead of paying off that one,
It's bad.
It's like, man, they're addicted to that new fancy. And I would argue it's just so superficial. It's like, man, if I can make more money in a short period of time, I get more time with my family, more time to do the things I want to do to benefit myself, make myself better, more time to give back to my community. I have a networking group called Dads in Business. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
I have. Yes.
Yeah, briefly. That's purely just because I saw a need for a lot. There's plenty of networking groups out there that are much more professional than mine. Mine is simple and easy. Bunch of dudes are going to meet up on a Friday, usually Friday night-ish, Thursday night, Friday night, around 5-ish in the evening, very convenient time for beers and burgers. We're going to meet in some conference room type thing at some restaurant, or one of those party room type things, I should say.
Yeah.
We're going to meet there and we're going to talk about business, life. Hey man, who does your advertising? Hey, how much did it cost you to wrap your truck? Who'd you use? Do you like them? Who do you reference out when somebody needs a new roof? Like I deal with roofs all the time. I'm a tree guy. Trees fall on roofs, this and that. Who do you use? Oh, let me talk to that guy. Or, hey, a roofing guy came.
Yeah.
We network, we swap business, get to know each other. Hey man, how do you have it with your half a business with your wife? I get guys who do their business with their wives just like I do. And they're like, man, it's a struggle for us, like blah, blah, blah. And we'll start talking honestly about overcoming the challenges of working with your spouse. That networking group I have, listening to those guys, answering those questions, hearing about their life, their struggles, their businesses, and using my experience to help them helping me by sharing theirs, benefiting each other. I love that. It's like, that is the best time. If I can find the time to put myself into that, I love that. We do at least once a month. It's great. And if I can make more money in a shorter period of time, so I have more free time to do things like that, that makes my life fulfilling. that feels like a life worth living.
Yeah.
I'm able to help these guys and they're able to help me, and the circle goes around. I hope I clone myself in that group. I love when dudes are like, hey man, thank you for doing this. And I'm like, the best thing you could do is help as well. Do this, participate and share it. Let's help each other. I don't want to be the only one. I don't need all the credit. I don't care. Let's help each other. Let's do this more. That's awesome.
That is what is missing in most of the world, I think, or at least the US. I think that community right there. Cause exactly, man, like meeting up, building each other up. How can I help you? It's going to be reciprocated for the most part. So I don't know if it's like a function, back to why I think North Idaho is that way. Cause I've never seen that. Maybe that exists other places. I've lived in 8 different states and I haven't seen that. I kind of feel like there is a large population of former and current first responders and veterans up here. And I almost wonder if it's a function of coming from where those guys came from, that environment, and bringing it into everyday life and trying to build those teams. Cause that's what you do in both of those worlds is you try to build that team. You should.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep track of our customers, generally speaking, not like they're data deep, but keep track of who's who, in residential, commercial, and some other factors. First responders, dude, a significant portion of my customers, significant, way more than I've heard other guys say from other states. And that is a habit, taking care of each other, first responders. But we're also more family oriented up here, I'd say. We already talked about that. And that's a big part of it. I think there's so many more tight knit families that are willing to help each other, look out for each other, that the habit bleeds over into society more. When there was that fire in Post Falls across the river, they evacuated a bunch of areas. They set up the evacuation center to take people into refugee center, whatever they would call it. My wife and I contacted them about donating to it. We're like, hey, how many people do you have there? What can we donate to help? It was, I think the Red Cross had set it up. Yeah. And it was a legitimate setup, tents and blah, blah, blah station. We were going to drive stuff over there. We just need to know what to buy from the store. When we called, the lady said, we have a ton of stuff already and there's nobody here. There's hundreds of people evacuated in that area. Yeah. No one had come. Everyone had somewhere to go. And some people listening, I swear that's true. Like, I'm not making this up. I wish my wife had recorded that phone call. We couldn't believe it.
That's wild.
We're like, ma'am, there's no one, like, we can't do anything. She said, no, we've already had tons of donations and there's, in preparation for people to show up, they'd taken Gatorades and this and that. No one had shown up. They're like, we're good. Like, we're literally going to close this thing down in a day or two if no one shows up, because the fire will get under control. We can see it coming. And if no one's just going to show up, we're not going to stretch it out. There's no point in us being here with empty tents. My wife and I were just so happy.
That's awesome.
It was so amazing to hear that. Like, wow, no one had to go there and sit in a cold tent. As much as we tried to make it comfortable for them, that's still a shitty situation. Right. Everyone had a house to go to with friends or family who were able to take them in. Like, you remember Paradise and all that situation? Yeah. We talked extensively about that. Yep. Horrible situations. There's already so much homeless and so many problems in California. Like, the number of people that just turned their life upside down and had no help, nowhere to go. Crazy. It's tragic.
It is.
It's not, North Idaho is not perfect. I'll be the first one to admit it. But man, I'm so grateful that up here, it's so much better than like that situation.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that as the rest of the country falls apart, North Idaho will kind of be a shining beacon of community and freedom, and it will remain that way, because I think there's
sanctuary
just
of sanity. Sanctuary of sanity.
Yeah, dude.
Is what I call it.
Ever since the downtown protest, man.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, because I feel like if things got bad, this would be at least better than anywhere else.
Ever since that downtown protest, that put us on the map, which I didn't think of it that way at first. My father, actually, he was still a police officer in Southern California when that happened, leading the SWAT teams, doing all that crazy shit with the riots down there. He's the one who told me, do you know how many people started talking about North Idaho when BLM, for those of you who don't know, BLM was going to show up and burn down North Idaho, blah, blah, blah. They came to downtown Coeur d'Alene. They're going to come to downtown Coeur d'Alene, and a whole lot of dudes with a whole lot of guns. And a lot of us had a lot of prior training and were ready for a nasty fight. We all went out there. armed to the teeth and ready. Like, you're not going to mess up our city. You're not going to ruin the good thing that North Idaho has, or Idaho in general has going for it. But that downtown flood of people being willing to stand up and fight that we had put us on the map for the rest of the world, I think forever.
Yeah.
People will always remember. It's like the January 6th that everyone thinks of when, you hear the date January 6th, everyone knows what we're now thinking of. They hear North Idaho, a lot of people probably think of that. Like, I've had many California friends tell me like, oh yeah, that's where all the people went and we're going to fight the BLM and fight the riots. I'm like, yeah, that's us. Like, we were there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man, just talking about that, I think it's an unrealized part of a community where a lot of people contribute directly to its overall safety, right? Like, there's other parts, like when I think about when you guys talk about Paradise, which is wild, or in other cities in California where really high crime rate, or you can't leave your car anywhere without fear of it getting broken into, or it's soaring property crimes through the roof. All you see is negativity on the local news and stuff like that. Man, I think it's wild when you start to break down how important it is to have that safe community in regards to how people feel about protecting it. Having been a part of like some critical incidents where immediately we're getting flooded with, I mean, Cassie always brings stuff from Anchor Top. She's always there, but it's always coffee and food and support and water, and it's citizens that are coming together in this. I truly think if we ran into, a monumental critical incident where it's a massive fire, whatever it is, our community is one of those types to be like, nah, F you federal government. I don't want your funds. We got this. Like, we'll protect our own.
Yep.
Not saying that would never happen. It could. Yeah. I mean, cataclysmic events, whatever. But man, I've watched that take place, whether it be the Bayview fire or whether it be the BLM protests, how fast citizens come out because they're proud to be a part of it and they love their neighbors. I think that's what a lot of the rest of the country is losing because we're this. Oh, man. These are your relationships. We've been friends on Facebook for 3 years, as opposed to, hey, bro, you're doing a party for your daughter. I'll be there.
Dude,
right?
Most people don't know their neighbors. It's crazy to me how few people know who live around them. Like, when I get a neighbor who calls me like, hey, you've had a package on your porch for a few hours. You want me to bring it inside? Or I one time had a neighbor call me like, hey man, there's been a truck parked outside of your house for like 20 minutes. And I was like, oh shit, that's my older brother waiting for me to get home. He didn't have a key, whatever.
I get the same thing.
I
cool.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that they're just willing to pick up the phone and say, because they know me, and they're also just, they'd call any other neighbor if they knew them.
Right.
They're like, hey, just looking out for each other. Like, hey man, just something I wanted to make sure is okay. Setting the standard of picking up that piece of trash when you walk by it. Like, it's broken window theory. I think you guys both.
It's broken. Putting the shopping cart back.
That's it. That's really the start with the little stuff, man. Like, if you take care of that little stuff, the big stuff will take care of itself. Right. If you pick up the piece of trash that's in front of your neighbor's yard, even though it's not your yard, it's going to be the habit of putting away that shopping cart, taking care of society as a whole, the ripple effect of building those habits of looking out for each other, taking care of each other. And
it's not because you expect something in return. It's not picking that up thinking that, it's going to come back. No, You do it because it's the right thing to do. And you're trying to create those habits, and you take pride in your community.
Yes.
And I really wish, man, I truly feel blessed to live where we do. Everything happens the way it's supposed to. And there was a string of events in the Navy that caused us to come back. And man, we're lucky to be where we are now. I think all of us could say that where we came from. It's been better for my family. It's better for them better for my kids growing up. We're lucky. And I think that's why all of us are taking an active role in keeping it that way.
Dude, I'm so good. It's so great here. Back to what I said about earning it every day in life. It's so great here. I just try and earn it every day. I'm very grateful to be able to be allowed to be a part of this community. I just want to earn it. I want to have my business and take the best care I can of my customers, have my Dads in Business networking group and take care of those dudes as best I can to give back to them, take care of my neighbors, the average person I just pass in the store. If they want to talk, if they need me to grab something off the top shelf or anything, just be willing.
That never happens to me. Ever. Thank you for that.
Tall guy problems, man.
Exactly.
It's a burden in life, having to reach that top shelf.
Sounds terrible.
It's just a habit of helping people in all those ways. And like I said, like not even thinking about it, just being like, okay, that's just something we do. Like, I'm not going to get anything in return. You should get a good feeling in return. And there's no shame in that.
Right.
I've told my guys at my Dads in Business group, like, dude, I do this selfishly, guys. I get so much joy and happiness watching you guys network with each other, learn from each other, grow,
and be successful,
and make good decisions.
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel good. I'm selfishly getting great feelings watching you guys do this. That's why I do this. I do this group because I get the enjoyment of watching you guys all become better with each other. So I'll be the first one to admit, like I do it selflessly at my own financial expense, but I absolutely get something in return. I get the gratification of knowing they're all better men, better businesses, better in general, better for their families. I know some of them that have been going to the gym more, making better financial decisions, making better business decisions. It's like, oh, wow, I get to watch all those good things happen in their life because I just put on this little event that cost me $50 each time. Like that is awesome. Like I get so much enjoyment knowing the good things are all happening just because I put in a freaking ounce of effort. That's all it took.
You get that feeling when you choke people out for their own benefit?
I do. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I don't get paid. I don't get paid
for their own good.
This is my free, my donation
for my service.
You're welcome for my service. Exactly. And like you said, for their own good.
Yeah, for their own good.
It is. I do it out of love every time.
That's so much. Hard parenting, man. That's it.
Yes.
I remember telling junior Marines that all the time. Like I was known as one of the more hardcore sergeants in the Marine Corps, like hardcore instructor. I'm telling them, like, yeah, dude, I will work you until you drop. You will do burpees in a flak jacket with plates in until you puke because it's good for you, bro.
Yeah.
Because the more you sweat now, the less you're going to bleed in a firefight.
That's
like 100%. Like it's the willingness to put in that effort, man. It's back to, it's hard to be a good parent. It's hard to be a good business owner. It's hard to do all these things. Welcome to it, man. Do hard shit. Get used to doing hard shit. And man, it makes life so much more enjoyable. Like,
right. I tell mine a teenager, man, you are one of my favorite human beings on the planet. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you, but I'm not here to be your friend.
I'll be your friend later.
Yeah. Oh, God willing. Right.
Exactly.
Like that's what I want, but I am not here to be your friend now. Because he always brings up, you guys are the strict parents, when they come stay.
You're welcome.
Yes, I know. Say, buddy, that's not going to change.
It pays dividends down the road. We were very strict on our kids, all as they were younger. And now they require almost no discipline. Like they self-discipline. It's amazing. So putting that work in on the front end was
front load the work.
Phenomenal. I'm so glad we did it. Now they're just good kids. It's like easy.
Yeah. And confident. You can see it in talking to your kids. They'll come up, shake your hands, look you in the eyes, which is a whole nother thing you can talk about now, right?
That's
like
wild,
interpersonal skills. Like,
right. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, it's just
hard for adults sometimes.
It's not for us. I don't think our generation.
No, but the ones that are a little bit younger than us, the guys that are in their 20s now, I think a lot of them struggle with that.
I think skills. I love and I appreciate like the podcasts like this, all the other guys like us doing things like this, telling those young men it's okay. Do those, give it, because they're a lot of them are like kind of lost. Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Some older guy tell me the right things in life to do, because for a long time there is kind of taboo to speak your mind, to tell young men to be masculine. It was, you're a bad influence for that or this and that. And some of it was misguided. I get it. The guys who are super roided up or, hey man, you're never going to be, the Rock. Like it is what it is. Don't, but it's okay to get as in shape as you can, to be motivated, to be disciplined, to be a man. Like that, giving them that green light to be a man. And hey, bro, that's not toxic masculinity. You're not going to be an asshole for that. If you don't be an asshole, you can carry anything too far. Just don't carry it too far.
I think balancing the masculine hard side with love is the key. And like with our kids at a young age, we were very strict, but we were always there to hold them and love them and over the top with that. So I think that balance is what people need. So yeah, being a man to me in my definition is being strong, being capable, being able to defend and protect, but also being able to like just love wholeheartedly.
Oh yeah.
And that works for me.
And be humble. I tell kids all the time, like, don't be afraid to fail. The more you try, man, failure is a function of growth. And our job is to build up this foundation where they're strong enough to accept that part and say, all right, what can I learn from this? and then move forward so you don't do it again. Make mistakes. That's, that's the function of growth.
No man with a solid, well-rounded life can say like, oh, I never took a gamble. I never failed. I never struggled. Like if you never failed or gambled or struggled, like you haven't done anything in life. You can't tell me you have a good, successful, well-lived life. You have to have done those things and accept it. Shit's not always going to work. Like I tell guys when I hire new employees and in general, I picked up on a saying years ago, learn how to suffer. It's important for young men to learn how to suffer. And what I mean by that is learn how to suffer and be okay with it and live a good life despite it. You're going to suffer when you wake up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym. You're going to suffer when it's cold and you have to do something outside, shovel the snow, but guess what? You're okay. Like you're still, having a good time. It's okay. This sucks. This is a miserable situation and life is good. Despite the suffering I'm going through right now, life is good. If you learn how to suffer, life will be grand, man. You can learn how to work your ass off, have a good time, be miserable, and be great. But you got to learn how to suffer and not let it stop you.
And surround yourself with people that'll push you.
Oh, totally.
Surround yourself with those people that embrace that same mentality of
no one does it alone.
No,
you can't.
I'm going to push myself today.
I am so fucking motivated right now, by the way. This conversation. Oh, yeah. I got to go jump in the lake and do 1,000 burpees. I'm like fired up.
I'm going to jump in the lake again. All right.
I know. I've already been in there once.
You already got me doing that every day.
I'm just glad I didn't go in the ice water this morning.
Yeah, man. You almost went in involuntarily.
I was duck hunting this morning in the ice water, waiting to drown. It did not. It was a great time, man. And that was just one of those things. It's funny. Like now I'm putting a lot of thought into that. Talked about it a few times now since I got here. Why did I do that? How does that affect my life? How does that summarize, I guess, me as a person? It's funny to think about those things that I don't say I don't put any thought into, but I don't think about stuff like that really. Yeah. Like I'm just like, oh, this is just what I do. Like, yeah, I wake up early and go to the gym. Yeah. I go hunt in the most miserable conditions I can. I'll chase elk thousands of feet up a mountain. No questions asked. Like that's just the things I enjoy, the things I crave.
Feels good to do hard stuff.
There it is.
Hard stuff.
I got to write the title down.
Yes.
Yeah. Hard.
Well, no, it really does. Even when you're unsuccessful, because that sets you up for the next one. Like maybe
delayed gratification.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I didn't pay it off this time, but I'm going to pay it off the next time.
That's
you
it,
learn
man.
from every time.
Yeah. Well, it's not about the reward. I think it's the mindset. It's not about the reward. Like I literally didn't shoot a duck this morning. Like I shot some yesterday. I didn't shoot any today. My brother got a goose and a Drake mallard, which is the perfect duck, big old guy. It was awesome to watch him go through that. Like I didn't get anything. It was a very slow morning. And it was crazy how physical and ridiculous the ice was and getting out there and all that terrible stuff. And I got nothing out of it per se. Not the animal I was chasing. I did not get my quote reward. Dude, it was amazing. I was miserable during it and it was amazing. I wasn't there to guarantee shoot the duck. That's killing. That's not hunting. I hunt because it's spiritually good for me, physically good for me. Work my ass off this morning. It was great. Like that, I went for a whole different purpose than pulling that trigger. Whole different purpose. And I'm grateful to say that's a natural progression of being a hunter, I think, over the years. You start as the young guy who just wants to pull that trigger. You're going to kill all the deer you can. That's all you care about. You're so disappointed when you don't get that deer because that's all that matters. And then in time, you start to appreciate teaching other people, enjoying the sunrise, the sunset, feeling the wind, watching the animals move. That becomes a big part of it, and you embrace it in a well-rounded aspect. And you learn to appreciate everything about the process. It's the process, not the end result. Not there for the meat, not there to kill that animal. I'm there for the process and what it does to me. That means a lot to me personally, a big reflection of my life. That's why I'm so obsessed with it. It's the process. Going to the gym, as cool as it is, it's 4 a.m. I do not want to go to the gym right now. God damn. Right. But I'm going through it. And I know when I walk out of there, like that whole process of just being in my own head all morning, suffering, I walk out of there feeling good. All the endorphins are flowing and I'm ready to take on the day, go do the business stuff I have to. If I have to climb or if I have clients to talk to, I have 3 hours of meetings I have to go to. I'm ready for anything the day throws at me because I already savaged the body to discipline the mind. That process in the gym, it wasn't about building bigger muscles or this and that. It was that process that was good for me that now carries over into the rest of my life.
Boom. On that note, boys, we're pushing an hour and 10
already.
Well. Yeah, it went quick.
Goes
It
fast.
Man, that goes real fast.
I am thankful for guys like you in my life because you motivate the hell out of me. I think more people need that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nick,
Yes.
talk about your business real quick. We'll put the link to your website in the
Please do.
in the comments as well, so people can find you. I like to refer clients to you, especially those from the first responder veteran world, because I know you speak their language, and it's like, I appreciate your integrity. So boom, send them your way. I have no doubt.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. It's great. I love my business. When I left the military, I expected to be a police officer like my father. And my dad was like, hell no, you need to go do something else, man.
So dad might be the same way.
Yeah.
Right?
While I was in college using my GI Bill, getting a business degree, started climbing trees. My father-in-law was a tree climber, owned his own tree company. So kind of just started doing that, kind of fell into it, didn't expect it type thing. And then I was hooked, the physical side, the adrenaline, hooked. My wife's a businesswoman. She's like, let's start our own company. So boom, we started Craft Tree Care.
Nice.
And primarily tree climbing, hazard tree removal type stuff. Some big old tree over your house or tree falls in your backyard during a storm. Bunch of, unfortunately, like the job we have next week, bunch of trees died on this lady's property from the beetles. And
bad year.
Exactly.
Bad year for that.
We come in, take those out. So we're a full service tree company, whether it's climbing, stump grinding, hauling away the logs, all that stuff. We do pretty much everything tree related. For removals and trimming fruit trees, this and that. That's what we do. And I'm very grateful to have, 4 full-time employees who are all solid dudes. They're, really so well-rounded, watching all of them enjoy their work day. They're good at their jobs. They're enjoying their work day. They're doing the right things off the job site, living good lives. All of them are like, pretty much same as us. They're in the gym. None of them are like smokers or anything. They're all just good dudes. Getting to enjoy my work day with them every day is the reason I do it. Like, I love my customers, but man, I love my employees, like watching them work and watch them have a good time doing it.
That's
It's
awesome, dude.
So
that's fantastic.
It's,
We'll put the link in there so people can find you. And thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, you guys heard it here, man. If you're an able-bodied young dude that's out there looking for some work experience and you don't want to do fast food, I get you. All right, hit this guy up, man. Go do something fun.
Yes.
Get your blood pumping.
Go start getting strangled by Seth, and then come climb from me. Yeah.
Maybe one step at a time.
That's the path,
dude,
to perfection right there.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the message you guys are putting out.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yeah,
that truly, the world needs more of it. I'm happy to just do my part. I appreciate that I have more of a sphere of influence now than I've ever had. Like you said, social media has a huge one. Mine's very small, but I'm happy I have one through my business, stuff like this. Thank you guys for using your sphere of influence to make this world better, because I got daughters being raised in it. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. And speaking of, if you're an able-bodied young lady, come out and be a badass street climber.
Yes.
And learn jujitsu. Yes.
Seriously. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. All right.
You guys.
See you next time.